So continuing on into UK3 with my 1v1 game with Mats and the team club. Uh, so Germany this last turn, they bought 11 infantry, a tank, and an artillery, obviously putting the 12 in here and the tank back in Italy. That's a good sign because I don't have any transports yet, so he could just build more tanks in here, but by building infantry artillery on 3, he's now looking at 4, 5, 6, 7. So potentially now he's kind of thinking it's going to be G7 uh, because we did delay by 1 turn getting into West Russia. So that's the good news. The other part is I wasn't expecting to. I didn't think about the non-combat to Arch. Because I was thinking I had Arch dead zoned with the 3-2, 3 tanks, 2 fighters. If he had moved his 3 tanks there, that could reach there. I didn't think about the non-combat move, so it was a pretty nice move by him doing that. But I do think, yeah, I got my note here that I already went into. If I do a 3 infantry, 2 artillery, 2 fighter attack into Ukraine, 3 infantry, 3 artillery into West Russia, go ahead and utilize these artillery that I built. That'll clear it out. I can move everything else back to Moscow, and Moscow and Caucasus will be safe another turn. And he'll only have, assuming we win both those, he'll have 4 infantry, 14 tanks that can move into here, which I believe I'll still have enough alive to have that dead zoned. So that's more good news on that front. So it's looking like G7 maybe what we're looking at as far as a target on Moscow. And because he won't be able to get to Caucasus, at the earliest, so G4, G5, then he's building G6 and Caucasus to allow the G7 attack. So it is starting to look like G7 earliest on Moscow. Of course, with all these tanks, once he gets to Caucasus, then India becomes a quick in and out as well, possibly. So we got about to worry about that. But we got a few turns, so we have to worry about that. Good news is we're going to move our air base up to Burma, which gets our Air Force and bombers into better range of Japan at least. And we continue to press forward. We're making good progress here. So even with the G7 Moscow, the fact that we have a US UK2 US2 DEI Borneo take. Plus, we're going to be getting the Atlantic Fleet developing more here in just UK3. So the Atlantic Fleet development as well as the Pacific Fleet with a G7 Moscow, I'm feeling fairly good about where I'm at right now. KJFs can spin on the dime without much warning though. So I'm going to put 3 infantry for India. We're going to start rebuilding that. And meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and build a transport and a carrier up here so that next turn we can start threatening. And next turn we can build some fighters and we can put them potentially with the carrier. And so then we'll have a carrier, 2 fighters, 2 destroyers, which gives me 5 hit points. But on top of that, we're at 35 income for UK. We're going to get 1 more here, so we'll have 36. We have 1 left over is 37. And we're going to try for New Guinea and possibly even have 38. What all that says and done is I'll be able to spend a solid 28 up here, 2 fighters and a destroyer if I want to have 1 more destroyer possibility there. And yet still also at the same time that'll leave me 9 or 10 points here where we can still put 3 ground down this way. So if I feel risky enough, I can just put the 2 fighters and be comfortable with the 5 defense versus 5 fighters, which maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm not really sure yet if there's something I really want to build elsewise into India, such as to help continue to pressure Japan as U.S. is going to build a factory. I'm not going to build a factory for UK yet, though, as we're going to continue to develop, like I said, develop that Atlantic right now. I don't normally get a shot to take New Guinea, but since we're going to use that destroyer block here, I mean, the best he can do is 4 fighters and a bomber there, which I'm going to move my other 2 destroyers there to make it a little more awkward. And he could do that, but then you have to move in the Philippines sea zone, which between what I'll have left, I should have dead zoned. Even if he used destroyer blocks to block these guys, I should still have the Philippines dead zone between my Air Force base I'm putting here and my remaining Borneo fleet. So then it comes to he has 2 fighters and 1 bomber that could strike and come back, which is advantageous versus 2 destroyers and a cruiser, but is it really worth it? I don't. If I was him, I'd probably say no, but I don't know. We'll see what he decides on that regards. An interesting thing you're going to see in non-combat, I'm looking at moving this fighter just to here, where it could go 1, 2, 3, 4, and join my fleet to start taking North Africa, and be, most likely he won't have as much defense, coming in as far as Germany fighters, because they'd have to be over here, all have to be up this way, and he's going to want to be putting pressure this way. As well as a fighter here could also do 1, 2, 3, 4 and get to Moscow, or a fighter could go 1, 2, 3, 4 and get to that Philippine sea zone that we're trying to dead zone. So interesting. I thought I'd be moving him all the way over this way, but I want to keep him here just so he could back check to sea zone 13 possibly, depending on how things play out. All right, I think that's it on the attacks. Just the one attack there. Did it? Did it? Oh, the cruiser hit! The cruiser hit! Whoop whoop! Even if he attacks here, and even if this gets, those guys get stranded there, every turn that's worth 2 IPC. So in 3 turns, those 6 guys have made up their value, so to speak. So okay, first thing we do want a destroyer there. We'll put 2 destroyers over here. Move the carrier on into this grouping. Them in. Them in. I didn't think about using my bomber for anything. I think we're just gonna move the sub on up to here. Not gonna, we don't. He's got his destroyers there, so might as well put him into the stack, I think. I think I'm gonna leave my transport here, continue to threaten Italy to some degree. Plus, he can grab these 2 guys and move them right up to the front line really quickly if I decide to go that way, if he backs up, or whatever. So I think I'm just going to leave him chilling there because we're not building the factory here. Japan bomber, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fighters, 1, 2, 3, 4. They can't reach me. None of his fighters, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's safe in this zone, just chilling. So I think we're just going to keep him chilling there for right now. We'll keep our 2 destroyers there for our carrier to match up with. That's everything there, right? Like everything we want to do. forgot I built the one fighter too. So I only need to build one fighter up here next turn. So that would be really good. And then two fighters a turn can shuck to Moscow from the Atlantic, hopefully. I should be able to build a fighter destroyer instead of two fighters up there. And that'll make me feel safe in Sea Zone 6. Start landing in Northwest Europe or in Norway. Alright, go. Okay, so just doing a quick update on this is the team game of our round 3. Where we're playing Mats and Verminator, and I got Zuski and John Roberts on my side again. So Russia, we pulled back. He was able, I believe he took Dilo for a turn, right? Or Bulgaria. Yeah, so he did. He was able to kill Bulgaria, sending just one infantry, two fighter there. He had one infantry, so got some money for Russia at least. Germany had to come back counter. He did use his battleship to attack. Russia left two infantry in Caucasus. He used his battleship to take two infantry and the battleship to Caucasus. They ended up trading 2 for 2, but held on without losing Caucasus. So that was a blessing there. Meanwhile, of course, went up to Karelia here. So I was just taking my UK turn. Um, I'm buying a carrier, a fighter, 3 infantry. So this game, Japan came crushing down into Burma. I was worried they were going to kill my carrier and fighters that was in 35. Um, but now I am pulling them back. So it's just the 2 carriers and transport naked over here, which technically he could kill again by sending his fighters, but then he'd have to move a carrier over here. And in this, we've got 5 fighters and 2 bombers landing there. So we're going to have Sea Zone 32 dead zoned. So he has to decide if that'd be worth it or not. The problem is, because I want to move one of my subs into 35 and one of my subs into 36. I'll explain that why in a second, but because I wanted to move one in 36 again, we get into this sub part, so I had to pause the game to see if he'd want to attack 33, so as to not mess it up with the bug that is in the game there. The reason I wanted to do that is by putting a sub in 35, if he decides to go for India, he'll have to move a warship into 35 as well, which means that's less coming back up to here where we got US putting pressure on 60 and 62. We went 58 intentionally because that means he can't destroy or block. You know, if we went 59 like we were kind of thinking about, he could have just bought a destroyer or blocked in 60 and then built in 62. You know, and only had to build partially just to protect against air. Now he has to protect against the entire fleet, both 60 and 62. So he's got to worry about pulling these guys back. They did save up 50 IPC, so they're going to have money to go back to. But meanwhile, we had to worry about this threat. So anytime I can pull a C unit with UK, I'm happy to. So that's why we did the subs here. But if he did take like a destroyer or whatever there, then I would have the next sub that could attack it. So that's the idea there. Meanwhile, we got 2 infantry and a tank and my transport here, so that we'll have 5 units plus my air to help dead zone Egypt. We built the carrier fighter to start going up here. Transport's going to come. Oh, back to grab that guy. And there we go. My opponent did let me know he's okay with me moving the sub into there, into 36, so that's what we're doing. So working on getting the fleet, we'll have a little bit more money, so hopefully we'll be able to build a little bit more over here too, and be able to start picking on the edges of Western Europe. We got Germany contained into North Africa, And hopefully we stopped him at India. India's a little bit of a toss-up. He could go for it, but if he does, he's going to really jeopardize us getting back into the Japan sea zones there. Okay, so I have to say, Mats is definitely making this very difficult and interesting considering how quickly I got an advantage in the Pacific early. And so you can already see he made this interesting move of moving his Japan fleet into Sea Zone 59, which honestly, at this stage of the game, I've never seen this. It's a new situation for me. Um, and I'll talk about why it's a challenge in just a little bit more in just a moment. But real quick, we'll go through what he did. He did buy 3 subs, a fighter, and then 2 infantry that he put on here. Let's see. He did some groundwork. Yeah. So he has beaten up a little bit more on Russia. So Japan is getting some money from the land war, but we are working the peninsula a little bit and we're taking the islands quickly. So even still, we're advancing pretty well on Japan. We'll get back to the land war in a little bit more in a second. Uh, season 48. What was season? Oh, yeah, he took out my destroyer blocker. He did lose his sub, so we traded the destroyer for the sub, so that's a positive for me. I'm happy with trading 1-for-1 ships in the Pacific is fine by me, especially when I'm taking out one of his attack subs because that helps me get my defensive position. For those that have listened to my KJF play, my first goal in the Pacific is to get a defensive stack. That's why I got a mix of UK and US as quickly as possible, which we've done here, and then work on an offensive stack. Meanwhile, I want to limit his offensive stack and then his defensive stack until it's gone. So a destroyer, my destroyer, is equal offensive and defensive in essence, whereas his sub is definitely more of an offensive unit. So we're taking off an offensive unit, which is what I want in the early Pacific. So that's the good news there. So the interesting thing about this is, a couple things to observe. One, he's got 3 transports but only 2 troops. So that's kind of telling me he's not intending on evacuating altogether. He's planning on going back unless I give him an opportunity for something else. He always could grab these guys over here in the Solomon. He could grab guys off the islands and do an exit ramp if I give him the opportunity to. So I do got to watch out for that. The other thing in Sea Zone 59, with those 2 units, a battleship, a cruiser, and 4 fighters, he is threatening West USA, he is threatening West Canada, he is threatening Alaska, he is threatening Hawaii. So he's putting a lot of stress over here. In addition to, that's a lot more boats than I have right now because my U.S. fleet currently is in 3 different positions. He is threatening Sea Zone 56. He is threatening Sea Zone 44, while still holding a threat somewhat on Sea Zone 48 here to try to prevent me from taking Philippines. So it's an interesting position. It's a strong position, especially since I don't have anything here to threaten Sea Zone 60 and 62 real well, so he can continue to build subs pretty easily there, while sitting out here creating havoc for me. So I really want to I need to continue to build attack units, boats, or fighters, for the Pacific because I have not overwhelmed his fleet yet. I've contained him for the most part, but I haven't overwhelmed him. And we're going to need it for later on as the game goes anyways, to a degree, to help us dead zone sea zones and protect against air builds, which the one good thing, so he's building subs, which is going to make it that much harder and longer to advance in the Pacific, because subs push you back. as we were just talking about the offensive fleet versus defensive fleet. But the good news is by building subs, he's not building fighters. Well, he did build one fighter, but he's not building a ton of air. So he's right now still just at 6 air, which once we get rid of the fleet, then we got to worry about the whole air raids hitting my convoys trying to ship units around, or just a few ground with a bunch of air that Japan can do a lot of headaches with. So that's a slight trade. Now, the other things to think about here is, and this is one of the challenges as allies when you're doing this, you want to get your setup over here in the sea zone and the money islands and getting your shucking going, getting units onto the mainland as soon as possible, because you know Germany is going to be rolling through at some point. So you definitely want to get that up and running sooner than later. But at the same time, if you get all your boats here, Japan slips. The whole Japan fleet, especially if you had 3 loaded transports, I'd be even more worried about this right now. But then that Japan fleet slips through here, slips through Panama, and then next thing you know, they're sitting in Sea Zone 12, threatening DC and London at the same time. And we generally have a fairly weak Atlantic fleet going. So there is a timing issue that you got to be very careful with, letting that Japan fleet slip through. And there's some defenses, and if we get to that point in the game, we'll talk more about it. But I'd rather not let I'd rather the Japan fleet fight and go down than slip through the Pacific, or sometimes slip through the Indian Ocean, although I don't think that's going to happen. I'd rather not have them slip and get to the Atlantic side of things. So I really want to contain them. So to contain them, I need to keep pressure on them. But they're over here, not over here, so how are we going to do this? So I'm going to have to do, in this turn, in the US turn, and in the Russia turn, I'm going to do things that I don't like to do in a KJF. One, I don't like destroyer blocks. I'm not saying I don't ever use them, and I'm not saying they're not useful at times, but I don't like to do them unless I absolutely have to. Why? I don't like to do them as Axis or allies, for that matter. As Axis, again, you're going to get overwhelmed at some point. Just throwing a destroyer out there and trading off is beneficial for the allies, as we talked about. So, trading boats is more of an ally's benefit. So I don't like to do it as Axis. I don't like to do it as allies because, as we talked about, late game, allies is having to defend against air, and every destroyer that we send out here for one of his subs to sink is one less destroyer late game protecting against airplanes. And I'd rather my destroyers protecting against airplanes than getting sunk by subs. So that's why I don't like them either way. That being said, we're going to have to use a destroyer block, really a double destroyer block, unfortunately, in this situation as I've put it together. So the second rule, and I did it last time, the main focus in the center of the board comes down to the Moscow battle. At some point, Germany is going to attack and beat Moscow. The whole goal of Russia and the Allies is to delay that as long as possible. So the whole point of a Moscow battle is defense, right? Or just Russia, the whole KJF is all about a defensive stack. So in general, trading one Russian infantry for one Russian German infantry is a win for Germany, because a Russian infantry is only going to attack at one. A German infantry is only going to attack at one. A Russian infantry is going to defend at two. So really, it's kind of like every one German infantry is worth 1.5 Russian infantry or Allied infantry. I haven't done the exact math. It's roughly that, something like that. So don't quote the exact number, but just the point is to be made. So it's better to, generally speak, turtle, and not attack, except for trades where you can trade really efficiently for higher value property. So that being said, here we got this last time. It's even worse when you're trading your defensive ground to kill a unit that's not even going to be attacking you. So it's even that much more worse in that regards. But situational board position, if I take both of these guys out, then he's only got 4 infantry that he can bring into West Russia with his stack of tanks, and he can't take Caucasus at all. And that's 4 IPC I'm preventing from him. So I believe we're going to re-pull out the calculator between US and Russia's turn. I'm going to be able to attempt to attack and wipe both of these stacks and still have West Russia dead zoned from the 4-14 stack. And so that'll mean if he can't on German 4 can't get into West Russia, these guys are going to move up to Ukraine. And on German 5, he probably will be able to move the stack and the stack of tanks into Caucasus, and I won't be able to dead zone it by that point, I'm guessing. But I might be able to dead zone it too. I don't know. Whole point being, he doesn't take Caucasus till 5 at the earliest, and if he takes it in 5, then he's not building the 4 units here till 6, which means he's not attacking Moscow till 7, and then a tank, that initial tank build, making it to the G7, I consider it a success. So, and if we're lucky, and we can build enough fighters and get enough fighters, if we can get it discontrolled enough and push fighters into Moscow, we might even be able to push that back. So we want our U.S. fighters in range of, as many U.S. fighters in range of Moscow on U.S. 5 in their turn of U.S. 5 in range, so that U.S. 6 they could fly to Moscow and help defend against the G7. So that's another thing I'm keeping in mind with everything I'm going to do here. We're on US 3 now, but US 5, I either want my boats on carriers on 61, my fighters on carriers on 61, or my fighters sitting over here in Burma, where either version they can reach Moscow if needed on US 6. I know that's a lot of talking, a lot of strategy, but I just thought it was kind of a good situation here to kind of talk about all these moving pieces, and hopefully gives a little bit better picture of why I'm going to do what I'm going to do, which is I'm going to buy a factory for Borneo. That was a guaranteed. And we're going to buy 4 subs for C-Zone 56. We're going to put this one destroyer in 57 with a destroyer block, which I said I don't like doing, but that saves Western Canada and West USA. He won't be able to attack either of them. I'm then going to bring all my US boats, 56, 44, and 47 back to 44, where they're still in range of Philippines. He can't block me from getting to the Philippines. Like, he can't block C-Zone 49, right? He can't get to 49 to block it. So I will be able to get to Philippines on US 4 no matter what. Meanwhile, with the UK, we're going to send a destroyer block to 61. There I go again, throwing destroyers out there. But then destroyer, cruiser, carrier to 36, where US is going to take Thailand, UK can take the tip, and that'll mean C-Zone 36 can only have 1, 2, 3. So he can only attack with 4 fighters, right? Because they can't land anywhere, so only the ones that can be caught by carriers in C-Zone 61. So he'll have 4 fighters and a bomber versus my carrier, destroyer, cruiser, and 2 fighters. It's a 50-50 toss-up, but I've only got 2 transports, a UK transport and a US transport in there, so I am okay with that. Meanwhile, my fleet in 44, I'll send my UK sub over here because I don't need the sub for fodder over here. My fleet in 44 then is going to be pretty big. It's going to get my US fleet unified. It's going to be helping protect. We'll have the 4 subs in here adding into it. So hopefully we can push them back to where they belong. Actually, probably I'd imagine he'll go down to 61 because he'll be able to build here and come down to 61. And if I did my math correct, and I calculated this all out, I've already looked at Japan 5. If he's got 32 IPC to spend in 4, which I just plugged in as 5 subs, because generally subs is your cheapest attack strength per IPC. There might be a slightly different, but anyways, with that said, my 44 fleet and my 36 fleet coming together, I should be able to stack Philippines on US 4, UK 5 against whatever he builds there. And then there's a chance he could try to slide through. I don't think he would. I think he'll come back up this way, and then we're back into a more traditional position. So there's a small chance I'll recalculate it when I get to UK 4 turn. I might need to build 1 boat here in India just to add to that US 4, UK 5 stacking of season 48. So there we go. A lot of talking, a lot of strategizing. I am going to leave my tank behind, actually. The reason being just to help out Alaska, because he is going to have this whole where he can attack Alaska, and at least I'll have 2 infantry and a tank I could send over there if he does go ahead and land in Alaska. And it's going to be a while till I need my tank, maneuverability over this way. I am going to go ahead and this time take the Solomons. I'm going to pause one last second. I want to double. So yeah, so we're going to bring all of them together here. I am going to pull my calculator out again at the end. This is just, my brain is getting a little bit fried here. I need to double check that he can't do something. I want to make sure that I'm dead zoning these guys. I got enough US back to dead zone these guys next time that I think I should. I mean, he could use destroyer blocks, of course, but I think I should have it more outnumbered. So in any case, I do want to make sure. So I am going to get the 3 IPC this round of the Southeast Asia. So it's the same as taking the Philippines, just it's not a victory city and it's not an island. But I'm also going to be putting a factory in Thailand for US. So I'm okay with the fact that I'm taking this turn rather than Philippines, because the other option would have been to stack Philippines and let him do whatever he wants over there, but then he'd be able to escape that way, right? Which is what we're trying to control. I do think we're going to go ahead and do this. And I should, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's just a bomber, 1 bomber he'll have that can attack in here. And I got my UK to support, so I can land my bomber back over here without issue. All right. I think that's it on the attack side. I mean, there's a lot of talking for such a little bit of attacking, right? Oh, you know what? Yeah. I gotta make sure to take my commentary for the Discord channel too. Screenshots. Thank you. I hate it when that guy hits. That's why I don't attack him with the first one, where I've only got 1 boat and 2 guys. But when I got the backup, I'm It's not as critical if I lose a guy there. Nice. All right. I don't know. I could bring him over here too. I hadn't really thought about that. I need to stop and think a little bit here. All right, but what I do want to do, put everybody there, you there, you're coming back, you're coming back, you're coming back. And I believe I can get away with one because I might want this one destroyer to help out defend over here actually. Because that would make this not a 50-50 anymore. So let's see. This is this all warplane ships. Okay, yeah. So got 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I thought I had 18 in here. Is that one sub that? Oh, I'm going to be moving this sub in. So I'll have that sub adding into this. So that'll give me 1, 2, 4 subs, 1, 3 destroyers, 3 carriers, 1 cruiser, 1 battleship. So 4 subs, 3 destroyers. So yeah, so that should be enough to defend here. If I bring this fighter over here, this could give me some 1, 2, 61 striking. You know, I mean, he'll be able to move back to 61 regardless if he wants to. That's not really a question. And all I'm really, by moving him over here, doing is adding another attack to 48, which I should have that dead zoned already anyways. So I don't think that should be so much of a concern. I suppose I should, with those extra 3 subs, I should double check that real quick. But I guess that would be the main thing, is make sure that 48's dead zoned. But it should be. Certainly should be. So yeah, so this guy coming down here, this turn really is no added benefit because I got 48 dead zoned. Most likely, like I said, he's going to come to C zone 61, and I can't dead zone that because my fleet over here is just not, I'm not going to have enough to dead zone him from coming to 61. So he's going to be able to come to 61 this turn, whether I put this fighter in here or not. And even in Moscow, you know, we could get there if we had a carrier close enough. So we're just not going to worry about that component of it. Instead, we're just going to put him in Moscow for this turn. Next turn, we could look at bringing him down if we need more offensive attack, you know, into the 60, 61, 62 zone against his fleet. Then we can look at it when we got our Philippine fleet next turn, bring him back, and then we can use him for an extra attacking piece. But for now, we'll let him continue to just kind of help Russia defend up here, I think. Of course, he can take Hawaii. There's nothing much I can do about that. How are we doing? That gets him up to 8. No other trick shots, I hope. No, there's nothing else he can trick because we're going to be stacking Russia. So we should be good there. I'd hate to lose on the victory city count here all of a sudden. Like if I hadn't blocked here and he took West USA and Hawaii, boy, would that be yikes. Anyways, we're okay. Plus, we plan on taking Philippines next turn, so we should be good. All right. Oh, let's look at this bit. You know what? We're going to throw another AA in here just in case we decide to defend this next turn for some reason. But the AA in West USA is not really doing anything. Well, that's not entirely true. we put them here, and the next turn we decide to build a transport over here, I'd like to be able to move units into there that will be helpful in the battle. There, you know, we're going to keep the AA down. I may even bring this AA down. I'm not moving him into Alaska. He'll always have enough firepower to take Alaska. Having him there, I don't need to have him there this turn. So yeah, we're going to bring him back down too. Small things. But I mean, next turn I could build 2 transports. I'm building an infantry here and 1 infantry, and then I would have 2 infantry, 2 AAs. I could be taken to Alaska to start preparing for Germany's invasion eventually that way. So I may not do that, but I might as well do that now because that AA is doing absolutely no good in West Canada. All right. So next turn, destroyer is going to block. Destroyer cruiser carrier is going to come here. Sub's going to go that way. All right. At this stage in the game, there's no point in me buying more artillery. We need all defensive as we can get. I'm not going to risk my planes. I think I had this as a 3 infantry, 2 artillery attack here. 3 artillery there. And 3 infantry there. And before I hit the execute button, I am going to double check. So in talking about this, one of the things I was talking about earlier, I am going to be taking 9 of his attacking units off the board at the cost of 11 of my defensive units. I'm losing 2 units in that trade, in a trade that I really don't even want to be 1-to-1 to start with. But what I don't want to see happen is I don't want him to be able to take Ukraine and West Russia next turn, non-combat move his tanks over and be stuck there. I mean, I don't think that would happen. Theoretically, I could just leave these guys maybe and let them just take Caucasus free and give them the 4 IPC there. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. Attacking them both seems like it's going to slow them down a little bit. But this may hurt me later on. The positive, if I didn't do these attacks, then he'd be able to stack West Russia with his fighters coming in and the tanks and everything. He'd be able to stack West Russia, in which case I'd definitely be pulling out a Caucasus, which I'm going to be pulling out next time anyways. So it's not too huge of a deal. But what I am gaining is I'm gaining 4 points for me and taking 4 points off for him. So it's an 8 IPC swing for that 2 unit difference. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, normally in a KJF, I'd say it's not worth it. But I definitely don't think I could defend against 7, 2 AA, and 14 tanks down here. So, I don't know. I probably should sit here and really think this out more, whether spending off those units is worth the 8 IPC and position. I mean, that's the thing that you can't put a number on, is the position, right? If I wipe all these guys, then he's got 10 infantry there, 4 infantry here. So only 4 infantry that could be next to Moscow next turn, period. And there's something to be said about that. If I didn't wipe these out, he would have 11 infantry and 2 artillery sitting next to Moscow. So I did, thankfully I looked back at my note, almost missed one of my artilleries. So at least I'm using the artillery that I bought as well. So that's kind of the positive, I guess. If everything goes well and I win these 2 battles, which are both like 80% battles, then I should have West Russia dead zoned. If it doesn't go well, then it doesn't go well, I guess, and we just continue to hope that we make it to G7. Alright, let's get rid of these commas. We don't need them to keep showing up. Good. Oh, nice. Boy, it almost gets to that. Oh, should I retreat now? Golly. Nah. We'll stick with our game plan. At the very least, it'll be costly for him to attack it as well. Maybe I throw the AA in that group, because he doesn't want to throw his tanks in there. Maybe I'll turn the AA back on him. I'll have to think about that. I was not expecting that kind of victory there. Oh, wow. His defensive misses. Well, don't talk yet, Chris. Be quiet. Finish him. Thank you. Okay, now that went exceedingly well. I almost feel bad about those victories, to be honest. So yeah, I think I'm going to turn around. This way he has to risk his air against an AA or put his juicy tanks in there. I don't think I have any advantage. I mean, I suppose yeah, no, he's got 10 units coming that way. There's nothing worth defending back that way. And we're going to have 25 units here, so he's not going to be able to attack me there. So we'll see how he feels about attacking into the AA. So we're going to have, double check my numbers, 24 units that he could move 18 down into there. Even if I didn't get a single hit back, but most likely I'd get a hit back, I'd hope, out of 5 units and an AA. So yeah, we're going to turn the table right back on him there. So it ended up being a good gamble, I guess.